On the outskirts of the Russian town of Klimovsk, located 50 kilometers south of Moscow, lies an intriguingly looking object, operating in the interests of the Russian government and military. Shaped as a pentagon, with several satellite dishes and antennas located on its territory, indicating the facility's significance and extraordinary destination. The pentagon-shaped installation is just a part of a larger complex, which hosts a number of sites. Antenna arrays of the Krug communications intelligence system, military town which accommodates the unit's headquarters and living quarters, radio communication site and its antenna field, as well as the communications intelligence and satellite communications site. The whole complex is named as the 309th Central Radio Emission Direction Finding Communications Unit, Military Unit 34608. In Russian military community, the unit is referred to as Gudok, which is the name of an ancient Eastern Slavic string musical instrument. It falls under the command of the main directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, better known as the GRU. Let's dive deeper into the story of this location. The history of the Gudok unit reaches the early days of the Cold War. In the late 40s, the United States maintained superiority over the USSR in the number of strategic bombers and nuclear weapons that could be carried by those warplanes. Fearing the possibility of an all-out attack, the Soviet leadership decided to create a system that would allow the early detection and tracking of enemy bombers and strategic reconnaissance aircraft. So in 1951, the Krug Communications Intelligence System was officially established, in which the Klimovsk facility played a key central role. The basis of the Krug system is a set of circular-shaped, high-frequency, direction-finding antenna array installations, scattered across the whole Soviet Union. Each of those facilities consists of 40 antenna elements and a central building. According to a CIA report from 1961, the capabilities of the Krug system arrays include long-range navigational aid, air traffic control, communications interception, both foreign and domestic, detection of nuclear explosions, detection of missile launches, and more. In all of this, the Gudok facility was supposed to be the vital nerve center and main control station responsible for collecting and processing data from other Krug stations. Based on the order of the Soviet Chief of the General Staff, Sergei Shtemenko, date May 12, 1951, the formation of the 157th Separate Central Radio Direction Finding Unit began in Klimovsk, Moscow Oblast. The construction of the main installations lasted from 1951 to 1953. In the late 50s, the unit was commanded by Colonel Vikenty Ploshai. On October 4, 1957, Colonel Ploshai, together with the commander of the First Direction of the 6th Directorate GRU, responsible for radio and radio technical intelligence, Colonel Petr Shmirev, observed the successful launch of the first artificial Earth satellite, Sputnik 1, at the radio direction finding station in Klimovsk. This is the recollection of this event by then Colonel Petr Shmirev. At about 9 p.m. we received a call from the command center and were informed that the launch had taken place. About 15 minutes later, a message came from the Irkutsk Radio Direction Finding Unit that they had received the satellite signal and reported the time and bearings. That was encouraging data, but the command center was waiting for the first orbit to be completed in order to finally be sure that the satellite had been successfully launched. And so, long before the estimated time of the satellite's entry into the radio visibility zone of the Moscow unit, the radio operator reported that he heard the satellite signal. Soon, a pulsating strip began to emerge from the noise spot on the screen of the receiver indicator, and familiar signals began to be heard in the speaker. By the time the satellite entered the estimated radio visibility zone, its signals were thundering throughout the entire equipment room, and the visual mark on the screen of the receiver indicator was clear, stable, and quickly moving in azimuth. Loudly shouting "Hooray!" we warmly congratulated each other on the success of the Soviet science. This event was perhaps one of the first real tests for the capabilities of a newly created Krug system. And apparently, it's been passed. This is the satellite imagery of the Gudok unit from January 1965. And this is the drawing of the pentagon-shaped installation made by CIA analysts at around the same time. In 1972, the Gudok unit is renamed to the 309th Central Radio Emission Direction Finding Communications Unit and receives Military Unit 34608. Under this name, the unit operates until this day. In 1976, the Central Radio Direction Finding Unit in Klimovsk is awarded with a banner of the Soviet Minister of Defense for courage and soldier's valor. That is followed by the Red Banner Award from the Presidium of the USSR Supreme Council in 1979. Those photos show service at the Gudok unit throughout the 70s and 80s. This image is particularly interesting. Behind the two Soviet servicemen, there's an organizational chart of the Strategic Air Command of the United States Air Force, which can be considered the arch-nemesis of the Gudok unit and whole Krug system.
The democratically elected president of Russia was soon striding out of the building to address a crowd of supporters.
In 1991, the Soviet Empire started to crumble.
The chief state TV channel was halfway through its evening news when it got the first details of the agreement signed in Minsk. Quoting from it, the anchorwoman announced, "The Soviet Union, as a subject of international and geopolitical reality, no longer exists."
The fate of its vast military and security apparatus remained uncertain. Little details are known about what was happening inside the Klimovsk unit during that period, but it can be assumed that the transition from Soviet to Russian armed forces went pretty smoothly. Those photos show Russian servicemen during service at the 309th Central Radio Emission Direction Finding Communications Unit shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union. In the second half of 2000s, new equipment appears at the fifth site of the Gudok unit. A parabolic-shaped antenna and set of smaller antennas are installed in the southwestern corner of the pentagon-shaped facility. The appearance of those antennas coincides in time with the official shutdown of a GRU signals intelligence facility on Cuba, which was inherited by the Russian Federation after the fall of the Soviet Union. It is believed that the new antennas were transferred to Klimovsk from Cuba and that the Cuban GRU unit, or at least its elements, were incorporated into Gudok. Following the Ukrainian attack with long-range strike drones inside Russia on August 21, 2024, the head of the Ukrainian military intelligence, Kirill Budanov, informed that one of the targets was a radio-technical intelligence center located near Moscow. In all likelihood, Budanov was talking about the military unit 34608. No footage from the actual attack on Gudok or its aftermath is known to exist, so it's hard to tell what, if any, damage the facility suffered on that day. As of 2025, the Klimovsk radio emission direction finding unit remains operational, and there are no indications that it's going to be abandoned or disbanded in the foreseeable future. Some of the other Krug system facilities also remain in the active service to this day. It can be presumed that not much has changed regarding their principal tasks, and they still concern communications intelligence.